Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Alistair. I am, in fact, the captain, or at least I play him on the podcast and TikTok these days. And 8 feet to my left is the amazing Marguerite,
Hi, everybody.
who will be running the chat and being the technical genius that she is throughout the course of the evening.
Is everybody able to hear me okay? Because hopefully we fixed the microphone issue going around this time. And I have to wait a second for the lag and stare at the chat. Also, hi, Marguerite. So I guess people have heard me. That's a good sign.
What snack do you have with you?
Pop-Tarts! You may have seen me earlier talking about how excited I was that tonight is Pop-Tart night. So yes, it is Pop-Tart night, and we are here in the stream. Thank you so much for joining us.
Apparently we have a little bit of doubling up and echo, but nothing serious.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much we can do about it. His mic's really good. My headset's as quiet as I can make it. So unless we literally put a wall in our office, I don't think there's much we can do there.
I always sound a little bassy.
All your bass?
All your bass all belong to me.
All your bass belong to him.
For those of you who are new, we tend to do three things in pretty much the same order every week in this show. As you'll see, up front we have a fan art spotlight. This week's are the amazing Hey There Selkie Boy by Alex Jack and Tapey by Shitpost Calligrapher. We're going to be talking about Tapey later on. We'll then do an opening monologue, which is normally, as it is this week, by our house band, Nick Crowley, who's an incredible author and journalist, during which time you will see me fail to keep a straight face. Then we'll do part of our current story, which right now is Marco and the Red Granny. I'm apparently sounding super deep right now.
Super deep? I wonder what happened. Hold on a second. I'll be right there.
Yeah, baby.
Are you doing a Barry White impression?
No, I'm just talking like I normally am talking.
I have no idea what's going on. Hold on. Bam. No.
Okay. Your Ominous Tonight and Kind of Cutting Out is actually a fantastic album name, just for the record.
Ominously cutting out.
So someone said you sound kind of ominous tonight, you're kind of cutting out. Yeah, apparently I'm coming across as super, super deep.
I have no idea what's happening as a result of the microphone.
Gain, maybe?
Oh.
I will keep saying words, and then eventually they'll get better, and you'll let me know. I've not absorbed everyone's bass, I've just borrowed a lot of them, okay?
Let me turn them down a little bit in volume terms and see if maybe that helps. It's not a problem, it's just kind of strange.
It's just part 3 is going to sound possessed.
Don't sound possessed. That's generally bad. I have generally no idea.
This is the strangest technical issue I've ever encountered.
I've never encountered this before.
Yeah, me talking in a high-pitched voice is going to be what normal people hear at the bottom of the ocean trench anyway, you know?
You don't sound particularly low-pitched to me. And there's nothing
It's happened to Anil before, apparently.
I wonder if it's a Twitch thing.
Could be.
Should we give it a few moments? How about we give it the monologue and see if it resolves? And if it's still a particular issue, we might shut down the stream and start it back up again.
Okay, how about like the first little chunk of the monologue or something like that?
Just a second, let me try one more thing. I doubt this is causing any impact. I'm just going to do a little troubleshooting live, so, ignore me. He's the cute one.
Hey now.
Hey now. Let's see. Yes, fine, good. I'm just going to talk to myself. Ignore me. Talk to the lovely chat, my darling.
So yeah, we're both...
Bam.
Yeah, see, right? You're both cute. You stop that. You're apparently getting deeper in real time.
As I'm talking?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely not touching anything, folks.
This is odd.
Okay, so why don't we sing something deep and moody?
Nobody knows. See, thank you, Wendy. You're on the same wavelength.
Same wavelength. Okay, how about this, folks? Why don't we shut off the stream for a minute, and we'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
I have none of my buttons here. We're going to be right back.
Do not underestimate the power of the dark side.
Is that any better? No idea if it's any better at this point.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, now, next experiment.
Normal voices, la la la.
How about that? Does that mess anything up? Is everybody able to
We
hear
still
me
good?
okay?
Everyone still good?
Talking. Sibilance.
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 Godzilla is approaching.
Normal but quiet is what
Avengers
I'm aiming
assemble.
for, so fantastic. Great.
You realize Dark Alistair is just me who hasn't shaved for a couple of days now. Hey, what's up?
We tried that once. We tried giving you the genie goatee. Didn't go so well.
There are shots of me with a full beard. There's a reason you haven't seen them.
I'm guessing it's the fact that I was talking, but I'm gonna turn myself off, and let himself do it.
Okay, so. No, Scott, no. Those photos die with me thousands of years from now in the vault on Pluto.
Beard. Secret. I'd have to go digging to see if I even had them.
I had teenage hair so bad, my parents destroyed photos. I'm not even joking. It's reals, yo.
Now everybody wants to know what you were snacking on.
It's a Rice Krispie cake because this is what brings me joy right now. It's rice and crispy. Toast profess.
Are we both eating food on the stream
Yes,
at the same time?
we are. Let's come to this.
Snack AMSR.
So yes, as I was saying, firstly, welcome to the show. Secondly, for those of you who've not been here before, we do three things wrapped in a delicious wrapper of fan appreciation. And that fan appreciation begins with the amazing fan art, which you saw at the top of the show, which this time was Hey There Selkie Boy by Alex Jack and Tapey by Shitpost Calligrapher, both of which are absolutely top-notch. Now there'll be a monologue from our house band, Nick Crowley, author, journalist, fish enthusiast, occasional professional wrestler-ish.
Chaos Magnet. No, that's next week.
Yes. I'm really, really sorry you've had a lousy evening, really, and this will hopefully cheer you up a little bit.
Speaking of cheer, just really quick. Somebody in the chat. Well, I don't know if they're there. Is Maddie here?
Matty, make yourself known.
We have a birthday person in the chat, I think. Should we sing? Oh God, please don't make me sing. Oh, good. Maddie, if Maddie needs sleep, okay. Should we all type happy birthday to Maddie like a stream shanty? It's birthday. I don't want to sing though. I suck at singing. So we just yes, let's just all say happy birthday to Maddie, and
Happy
then
birthday,
when Maddie's able to catch up on the VOD, we can all clip this and go, Maddie, look! We hope you enjoyed your nap. Happy birthday!
There we go.
There we go.
So,
Let's see how many more times I can interrupt Alistair's script.
It'll be fine.
Shall we?
I'm excited.
I think we should.
So, we're going to do the monologue, then we'll do the third part of Malcolm and the Red Granny by Mel Lafferty, which is a fantastic story of gladiatorial combat and artistic patronage on the moon. Then once that's done, we will do a little bit of shenanigans, other half of the fan appreciation wrapper,
A little bit of
and
shenanigans.
then be out, yo.
A little bit of shenanigans. How funny.
By the way, if I sound a little huskier than normal, and this is actually why I got tripped up a little bit on the you sound like you are possessed, which obviously I'm not. This
Right.
is the second
Prove to me you're
of-
not possessed, please.
I love you.
Well, that's not proof.
How does one prove one isn't possessed?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. Okay, chat. How is Alistair going to prove he's
good
not
lord.
possessed? We'll think of something.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sure.
Think of a test to prove I'm not possessed, which I'm clearly not. There we are.
I need holy water in a spray bottle.
Old priest and the young priest.
Thank you. All right, let's move on.
Really?
Deep, dark personal secret. Oh, chat. As if you think I don't know them all already.
That was like date 3.
Was it?
I think so.
Are we counting online dates or in-person dates?
If we count online dates, it was date 3. If we count in-person dates, it was like date 50.
Yeah, something like that. So, folks who don't know, Alistair and I dated on Twitter for like a year and a half before we ever met in person. And then I literally flew to London to meet him, and we were both very glad that, he wasn't a serial killer.
Yeah, and she wasn't, a trucker.
Exactly. And then... Yeah, and then we moved. Yeah,
Yes.
that's how that went. So, okay, sorry, we're completely derailing this entire conversation. You have to think of a way to prove to me that you're not possessed.
I could always say that Elias is always right and has never done anything wrong ever.
Yeah, okay, all right.
There we go.
Please don't make Elias our safe word. That's just weird. Shall we have an opening monologue now,
Let's
chat?
have an opening
Let's have
monologue.
an opening monologue.
You got the table for your keys. Full circle. Well done. Good job. Right. This is so niche, and I don't even care. Not even a little bit. Once again, presented by the amazing Nick Crowley, we have 4 ways to adapt the Handforth Parish Council to video games. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. If you somehow don't already know about Handforth Parish Council, it brings me the greatest pleasure to be the one to bring you up to speed. The story is this. In the UK county of Cheshire, there is a place called Handforth, whose local governing body has gone completely berserk.
You corpsed at Wendy mentioning the corpse counter. That is metacorpse.
It seems a man named Brian is doing his level best to elevate himself to the status of a tyrant in this village of 6,000 people, and has chosen to pursue this ambition from his seat as chairman of the parish council. The whole story plays out so elegantly in this YouTube upload of a meeting from last month that it's staggering to remember it wasn't scripted. All of human life is here. There's roaring, there's banishments, there's an impassioned paraphrasing of Gandalf, and there's a bit where a man loses his mind and Growl hisses, "We're trying to have a Teams meeting, you fool," to someone off camera. There are even accidental opening credits. If you've not watched it yet, drop everything and do so, and then I will tell you how this remarkable story should be adapted for the world of video games. And Nate has kindly provided both an edited highlight reel and the hour and a bit long video, which is available in multiple locations. And just as an aside, the lady who is the undisputed heroine of all of this was on every news program in the UK for a week and had so much fun.
Pastor, yes, this is a real thing that happened.
This was not scripted. This is England. A return of the Oberdin-style mystery unravelling game. At the start of the Handforth Parish Council meeting video, it's unclear exactly what has happened, only that people are very upset about it. The plot is delivered in perfect retrospective packages over the 80 minutes of footage, however, and what's staggering is how many of the clues turn out to have been hidden in plain sight all along. The text over Brian's webcam footage, identifying him as the parish council's clerk, seems so unobtrusive at first, but turns out to be pivotal. It all feels great fodder for a mystery game, and there's even a baked-in protagonist in the form of Jackie Weaver, an outsider to the council who's been sent there to get to the bottom of the chaos. She becomes Brian's chief adversary in the video, and is widely considered to be the hero of the story, so it seems only right that she should be the player character too. Our hero, Jackie Weaver, whose full name must be used as if it was a single name by all her opponents for some reason. Alternatively, a piece of Crusader Kings 3 DLC. After watching the Handforth Parish Council video, it genuinely feels a bit like you have just watched a game of Crusader Kings 3 play out in real time. In fact, the events depicted would make more sense in the context of the game than they do in real life. Brian's monumental thirst for power, his utterly brazen ruthlessness in trying to hold on to it, both seem more appropriate to the continent-shaking scale of the Holy Roman Empire than they do to a subcommittee of a municipal council.
This was a subcommittee? This wasn't...
Volunteers.
Well, I know it's volunteers, but it wasn't even the full parish council?
This was the Kids' Table Committee.
Oh my god. Haggis has recommended that we read the standing orders at some point, and I call dibs.
I will do this. We will do this. In fact, Brian's actions make a lot more sense when you imagine that he's being controlled by a CK3 player enjoying the classic playstyle of find the lowliest character you possibly can and then do whatever it takes to ascend the ranks of power.
I think that counts as 2 corpses, okay?
This is John Smith, the level-headed soul who soldiers on as acting chair of the meeting after Jackie banishes an increasingly furious Brian. I have some measure of quiet respect for John Smith. An Ace Attorney-esque courtroom game. One of the right? One of the most memorable supporting characters in HPC Endgame is Aled Brewerton, a self-employed solicitor and private investigator, oh Jesus Christ, who acts as Brian's main...
Because that's not a massive conflict of interest!
Who acts as Brian's main acolyte in the developing conflict. He's reminiscent of Grima Wormtongue off of Lord of the Rings in his fervent support for Brian/Saruman, and one of the greatest moments in the meeting comes about when he starts barking about subpoenas for some reason that possibly only makes sense within the context of his own mind. I've not actually played an Ace Attorney game, but my understanding is that they boil down to shouting the word OBJECTION in a way that loosely corresponds to actual courtroom practice, and that seems very much an Aledian sort of thing to do.
Oh my gosh.
Aled, just visible to the left of this image, only ever appears on the edge of his screen, like some sort of entity haunting a liminal space. Like all good movie monsters, he is more often heard than seen, and whenever the meeting cuts to his webcam, we more often find ourselves gazing up at the cyclopean immensity of the Laughing Man as he looms over the camera like a brachiosaurus. Oh, Nate, the words really do what you tell them to. An arcade 1v1 fighting game.
Cyclopean immensity.
I know, right?
What a phrase.
I saw someone describe whales as Lovecraftian world enders a little while ago, and that one was really good too. An arcade 1v1 fighting game. No genre of game sums up the essence of personal human conflict more directly than your good old time-tested arcade fighting game. And I'm struggling to think of a reason why the format wouldn't lend itself to the Hanforth Parish Council cinematic universe.
Oh my god.
You need a
HPCCU.
HPCCU.
Alright, I want swag for the HPCCU by the end of the stream.
You need a roster of 8 characters at least to give players some variety, and that's exactly what HPC provides, especially if you become a super fan, as my partner and I have done, and begin watching older episodes of meetings. You've got Jackie and Brian and Alan.
What? You can watch older...
They're all on YouTube.
Oh my god, heaven help us.
Then you've got the incredibly sinister bloke who sits on Alan's sofa, roaring with laughter like an ogre who's just eaten the whole church congregation, and the faintly wizardly man with a pointed goatee and guitars hanging behind him. Round out the roster with the terse Mayor Barry and his cupboard full of paintings, the forlorn stalwart Sin, and the stoic figure of John Smith, and you've got one heck of a stew going. That is the wit and majesty of Mr. Nate Crowley, everybody.
My god, why would you put your parish council meetings on YouTube?
If you were the sort of person who thought that a adjunct parish council meeting mattered to the world.
Why?
I know, right?
I just can't. Okay, I have to actively disengage my lawyer brain from even contemplating.
Thank you,
such
Second
a
Breakfast. Please tell me someone pointed you at the meeting with the lawyer who got the cat filter turned on by mistake.
My boss sent that to me today in our Slack channel. He's like, okay, we had a meeting. It was towards the end of the day. He's like, you have to watch this. I have to talk to you about this.
And actually...
And what's greatest about it is he's texting. So he talks real slow like, Your Honor, I am not a cat. Killed me. Oh my gosh.
And AKA Kate B makes a really good point. Meetings on YouTube might be for accessibility or records purposes too. That's a really...
Again, must turn off lawyer brain. Must not pick into this. Okay, go back to him.
Welcome to Civics 101. Buckle up, folks.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. I'm pushing too many buttons. Alistair, tell the stream about my first constitutional law lecture in the UK. I want to sit here and react for the camera.
Picture the scene. We're living in one of the only roads in Nottingham which is a promenade. This means it's cut off at one end to traffic, so cars can't come down it. which also means we find out 6 weeks in that it's on no sat-navs.
Yeah, so we
Anywhere.
can't get any delivery. They can't find us. Anyway,
So, we lived there for a year, and for a full year we had 15 minutes. The taxi's at the end of the road, isn't it? Yeah, look for the one that looks a bit frightened and confused.
exactly.
So, at this point, I was between jobs, and Marguerite had started at Nottingham University. And so I was at home all day, and I would quite happily eat, preparing dinner. And it was one of those houses where there is no hall. Like, the front door opens onto the lounge.
Right.
Which, when we had like a foot of snowfall and owls and foxes outside, was pretty magical, actually.
1 year. We got snow 1 year. Anyway.
But I hear the door open and close, and I go, "Hey, hon." Nothing.
Now, he's in the kitchen, so there's a little bit of distance I have to travel.
But, as you can tell, we're both avuncular motherfuckers. So if someone goes hi and the other person doesn't immediately do it, my alarm bells ring a little bit. So I stick my head around the door. "You're right." And Marguerite is standing, the door closed, just looking at me.
I think I may have actually done...
Possible,
I think I may have put my bag down and assumed the, like, shepherd...
hands on hip. Yes, it
Thing.
was the full shepherd, arms folded, hip out. What is this honky bullshit pose? And she just looked at me and went, "What the hell is wrong with you people?"
I did not say hell. Just for
We're
everybody's
trying to keep it
benefit.
clean. Wu-Tang is for the children.
Yes, exactly. Wu-Tang is for the children. and thus proceeded a 45-minute rant.
You were walking all over my punchline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I say, "Are you all right?" And she goes, "What the hell is wrong with you people?" And I think for a second, and I go, "Oh, you had constitutional law today, didn't you?" And she's like, "Right."
And then I go on a 45-minute rant about what it's like being the one American in a UK constitutional law class. And the short answer is sweary.
Because this country doesn't have a constitution. It has a gentleman's agreement.
It does. It does. Did you know, for example, in the UK, that when they have elections for prime minister, well, first of all, the fact that the prime minister is not directly elected. The prime minister is the most senior ranking member of the political party with the most legislative members.
Yep.
And when they hold those elections is entirely at their discretion. And only recently has there been a time limit put in place where they have to have one every 5 years or so.
It's a constitutional monarchy, but at the same
Do
time,
not like.
it's just,
Don't like it.
everyone's very posh.
Right. We've got on my constitutional rant. Should we go on to the story now?
Let's go on to the story now.
Here we
but
go.
wait, there are other things we must discuss beforehand.
Such as?
What's up with Alistair this week?
Well, I did switch the camera back to you. That was kind of my clue there.
First off, Mr. Chungus is feeling cold right now because it's freaking -6 out there or something ridiculous.
That
So
was the content warning button, not the Chungus button.
So
Let
he's-
me go out and come back in again.
So he's in full Peter Lucas right now.
He's trying to keep warm. I mean, I
Thank
think
you,
it's
Wendy.
I think it's appropriate given how many TikToks you've been taking in the snow this week. You need a coat. That made sense.
My day has been made by the fact that someone in the comments for one of them said, "I'm no longer an office manager. I am now the Commodore of the office floor."
Exactly. The lad needs keeping warm, and he does. He's a little slow this week. I know how
sluggish.
I know how he feels, man. I know how he feels.
Also, we bought ourselves a thing. Because, I believe the phrase is, "It is on."
So we set aside a little bit of Valentine's Day money for ourselves because, we're in lockdown and there's not much we can do. So, yes, QB.
QB.
Exactly.
So cute.
He's so cute. So we spent our Valentine's Day money on buying ourselves a vlogging kit so that we
Yes.
can TikTok even more.
Yes, indeed. Just a massive enabling of nonsense. It's just the best.
Yeah. Tonight's gender, massive enabling of nonsense.
Also, this is the second of 4 streams or recordings I will be doing this week.
Yeah, that's
That's right.
right. This is the second of 4. Tell everybody what you've been up to and have coming up this week, honey.
I'm sure I'll forget some stuff, but I'll do what I can. Yesterday,
I got you, fam.
Word, homie. Yesterday, those are silly kids on the TikToks were about to be from a drone. Give me time, Jax. Give me time.
His birthday's in October. We'll talk about it then.
Yesterday, Mr. LeBeau and I spent 2.5 hours recording all the stuff for RQGG. All the stuff which people successfully donated to have us say. It was ridiculous fun.
It was so hard not to put my head up against the door to the office and listen in. Yeah, they spent 2.5 hours recording everything, and I'm led to understand that was after a ruthless quantity of culling and quality assurance.
My understanding is Anil spent a week curating this stuff and making sure that, where a line was suggested by multiple people, they were all credited and all that kind of thing. And yeah, there was like 5 pages of individual lines for me, 6 for Mike, 4 for like 2-person scenes, and the scene from Lonely Fans. I can confirm Lonely Fans has been recorded.
Exactly.
And it was fantastic. And also, yeah, Mr. LeBeau has acting chops, dude. There is a moment, and you will know it when you hear it, where you go, "Oh, Mike," and you are super impressed, and because I bloody was. And he wants to do more. So we are in very early discussions about doing some kind of dramatic reading together.
In fact, we're going to come back to that probably after the shenanigans tonight, folks. We could use some recommendations for some stuff that Mike and Alistair can get up to, like monologues or 2-person plays, or maybe even games that the 2 of them should play. So,
Kayak lessons.
Oh, God. What I wouldn't give for the 2 of you to play a kayak game. Ooh, I'm going to have to think about that one. But please do have some... What is a Lonely Fans? Haven, doesn't the name kind of imply everything you need to know? Yeah, Lonely Fans is what happens when Alistair and Marguerite streamed on the morning after RQGG last year. That's what happened. So yes, do give us some thoughts about potential, like, monologues or something. Oh, that would be really, really fun to do. We were thinking about maybe Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, but we have to look into rights or things like that,
all that good stuff. So yeah, that was yesterday. This is tonight. Friday, we're doing the Diner House over at
Rusty Quill. That's correct.
And
quickly, I have to prepare all of that because there are visual aids involved.
There may possibly be green screen. Possibly.
Yeah, and if we bust out the green screen, oh heaven help us. It's just a matter of if I'm going to have time between now and then. We shall see.
And I believe the 4th one is Sunday, yes?
Sunday, we'll be returning to the council, and it's Valentine's Day morning, so I reserve the right to, make kissy faces at you.
I would hope you would. I'm certainly planning on making kissy faces at you.
Yay! That sounds fun. And maybe kissy faces in the form of ordering McDonald's for breakfast. I'm a cheap date.
I love
Waiting for Godot!
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, excellent suggestion. Like little 2-player, 1-act play type jobs would be really, really fun. Are we talking Alistair and Mike playing games, or Peter and Tim?
Yes.
Yes. Both? Both. I'm thinking both.
Both is good.
Both is good.
Both is good. Yes. So yeah, that's all the kind of stuff that's going on at the moment, other than I appear to have got another role-playing job, which is lovely, and which will pay quite well, and this is for a game I co-created. Yes! We watched Space Sweepers.
Wendy, there might need to be hats.
Which you should watch, because Space Sweepers is really good.
Space Sweepers gives me all the gender feels. It is the sweetest thing in the world. Please do watch it. It's wonderful. I love it. But no spoilers, okay.
There is the robot character who you've seen in the trailer, Bubs, has a plot I never saw coming, and which is handled unbelievably well. And also fairly clearly at one point sounds like Gur from Invader Zim on purpose. Exactly. We haven't got to Leftovers yet, but that's coming up.
What Leftovers?
The Leftovers, the show that we had recommended to us. The secret thing we can't talk about quite yet.
Yes, that's right. No, I have not had time to watch Leftovers. What did we finish this week?
We finished The Player.
We finished the player.
And we watched the first episode of Queen Latifah is Done With Your Bullshit, Son.
Oh, Equalizer. Their Equalizer reboot, so good. We finished The Expanse Season 5 and WandaVision. Ooh, wow. Wow. But no, we need a new series to go on to here pretty quick, so Leftovers maybe up next.
Also, we also need to talk briefly about Tapey. Thank you, Scott. The TikTok account's gone a bit feral in that, how can I put this? I hadn't thought of that, Alex, but if I can get my hands on the pilot, it will probably go in next week's.
What, Clarice?
Yeah.
Let me make a note. I saw you watching the trailer earlier this week, so.
It's the grim, dutiful FBI show, the lady with an amazing American accent. Strangely, it's kind of in my bailiwick.
Hush now, you have a type.
Hey now.
Describe your monstrosity.
That was an idea.
Of course you said it that way.
And it wasn't a good idea, but it was a fun one. Where one of the things which we did on the Clock app was just the idea that what's the best possible way for Peter to simultaneously keep the staffers in competition and isolation from one another, and also just be the best achievists they could be. And obviously that's design,
We're getting so meta with references now. This is ridiculous.
A mascot for the Institute. Obviously they all decided it should be a tape recorder, and write down tape recorder in identical handwriting, and have no memory of doing so. So Tapey wins, and Peter is at the moment in discussions as to who's going to voice Tapey. We've had a couple of auditions, and we also...
I've only heard one. Have we had more?
We may have had two.
I haven't been on the Clock app today. Combo Switch, you are 100% actually accurate. He is his own fandom at this point.
Yeah.
Dibs on number one fan.
Of course. Shitpost as calligrapher has built Tapey. In fact, Shitpost first designed Tapey and then sent me the art saying, "This thing has cursed my house. Now it has cursed yours." And then built
Oh, Kiwi
Tapey.
Jelly. There's so much euphemism. Well, he didn't...
I didn't say you couldn't
He
audition.
didn't say you couldn't audition. And
And if you just take the problem to its logical conclusion...
don't you dare newell me! How dare you! How dare you! We are never gonna get to this story. Poor Mur.
Oh, Tapey. Tapey. So
Tapey,
yes,
Tapey.
we invented the mascot for the Magnus Institute this week. And then Peter went to war with the weather and also Fisher-Price.
Because you could. Because it was snowing and it was
Kiwi, I'm really glad
lovely.
you're here. Basically, what you've caught up with what you missed so far is nonsense. Just soup to nuts nonsense. It will all be on the VOD, and I encourage you wholeheartedly to watch it. Recap. Previously,
No. You have to say previously on. You harsh my buzz, dude.
on Marco and the Red Granny.
Dong dong. Thank you. You may proceed.
I may
sir.
proceed now. Marco is a comic creator and graphic novelist who is very much down on his luck, which is remarkably accurate given all the comic creators and graphic novelists I've ever met. However, for Marco, it is a little bit different because he lives in a world where an alien race whose name the chat had decided was Legume, and we're just kind of running with that, have arrived and have a very extensive colony on the moon. They're unusual in that they are a race whose economy is built exclusively around art, by and large, and in particular the combination of art in a manner that you would never normally imagine. The examples which were given include things like a book that gives you very strong memories of home, food which reminds you of the elaborate cut of a perfectly tailored shirt, that kind of thing. It's a technology unlike anything else that humanity has ever encountered, and the aliens love artists. And the vast majority of Earth's artists live very well under patronage in what's called Mollywood, their colony on the moon. Marco manages to get himself attached to a house up there and rides the shuttle up next to this very, very nice old lady who it turns out is the Red Granny. The Red Granny is the star of The Most Dangerous Game. The Most Dangerous Game is essentially every deathmatch level of every first-person shooter you've ever played, just with far nastier rules. Because the aliens really harvest emotion, and they harvest primality in emotion as well. And there's nothing more primal than mortal, deadly combat. And there is no one more deadly than this quiet, polite old lady who has so very many kills to her name, and who Margot is becoming increasingly disturbed by, not just because she's decided he's her friend, but because they are patronized by the same house.
So there are some content warnings for tonight's episode. I've just about to put them in the chat now. But most importantly, an early scene, one of the initial scenes here, does have some psychological and emotional trauma to it. So we will take a little pause and let everybody know when that scene is over if you need to step away from things for a bit. And we've already been chatting for 40 minutes. So if you need to step away, have a stretch, have a drink, check about medications, all that good stuff before we kick off, that'll be just fine. We'll be here.
Exactly. Shall I begin?
I think now's a good time.
Six had laid out a silk robe for him, and he slipped it on. The silk was chilly against his bare skin, and he felt quite underdressed as the diminutive alien came to get him. "Can't I put shoes on or something?" he asked, but she shook her head, her tentacles waving in little waves he found oddly soothing. "You will be comfortable enough," she said. "Just come with me." Again, it wasn't an invitation or a request, but Marco swallowed and tightened his robe, hearing a quiet lullaby as he did so. He followed Six down the hall. It was 7 a.m. GMT, and the house was beginning to bustle with activity. Bright lights gave a pleasant glow to the hallways and rooms branching off, imitating sunlight during the long lunar evening. Legion glided from room to room, some on clear domestic duties, some with more pressing business. Six stepped aside from each Legion, submissively, and Marco figured she had to be the last on the totem pole. He felt a little sorry for her. His pity melted like ice on a hot stove when she led him through a door on the second floor and into a windowless room. She grasped the robe with her tentacles and pulled it off him, her strength much greater than his own. What the hell?" he yelled, grabbing for the robe as she pulled it away from him. "Please, Marco, relax." The soft voice of 13 floated over to him, and he relaxed immediately. He understood it was part of their skill to mix emotions with other senses, and resented it. He covered himself as best he could with his hands, and glared at her. The room was dark, but he could make out at least 2 Legion milling in a corner, and 13 was at the far end of the room, adjusting the controls on a box that stood against the wall. It was probably twice as big as a coffin would be, wider and deeper. Marco jumped as Six began putting sticky white electrodes on him, her tentacles quick and precise. Some went on his neck, some his forehead, some behind his ear. Others went on his chest, back, thighs, and she darted in with one tentacle to place one exactly between his balls and his ass. Blood surged to his face and he moved to pull it off, but she caught his hand. "Please, don't remove the electrodes," she said. He snarled and batted her tentacles away, and she retreated. He didn't know if he had won his little rebellion, or if she was really done. "I know it seems new, Marco, and possibly somewhat startling, but it is all necessary. Once we go through this last test, we can determine we can discuss the terms of the patronage." Not sure this patronage is a good idea, he thought, but kept his mouth shut, only to have it pried open by Six, stuffing a breathing apparatus into his mouth. He expected it to taste like rubber, but it was an amazingly neutral taste. Nothing good or bad or noticeable. She fitted the mask behind his ears. 2 inserted small tubes with putty-like washers into his nose, forming a seal. "We are going to place you in a sensory deprivation chamber, Marco," 13 said. "You will feel nothing. Taste nothing. See nothing. Hear nothing. And smell nothing. We will be stimulating parts of your body, encouraging hormones, synapses, other things, in order to read you better. This is our first step in creating our art. It's really your art, because all of your work will be flavoured by your passion. There's that word again, he thought. Marco wanted to refuse, to see what would happen. He wanted to stand up, to say he didn't want the patronage, and what? Come back to Earth and live in his miserable dark apartment and write? No agent would touch him if he refused Legion patronage. The only career ahead of him was to make coffee, or maybe open his own coffee house someday. Just as a quick aside, folks, if this is too much, step away. It's all good. Don't worry.
There's no more physical contact involved, but it does start to get emotional and psychological from the rest of this scene.
With what money and business sense, he wondered. Did all artists really go through this? Was this a dirty secret of patronage? This will last approximately 15 minutes. If you encounter any distress, just press the red button. That is the emergency release, 13 said, as Marco tried to avoid the tentacles pressing against his bare back, guiding him into the chamber. That's not so bad, he thought. At least this messed up dance has a safe word. He went into the chamber and spotted the red button on the ceiling. The door closed, and Marco was sheathed in darkness. It was a frightening darkness. The kind that made him open his eyes wide, desperate to drink in any light at all. He jumped slightly as pumps engaged, and viscous fluid began to gush out of faucets at the back. It was quite warm, nearly the temperature of his own body. It filled the chamber quickly, and he breathed a little quicker, the claustrophobia pressing in. He thought very hard about the little button on the ceiling. Once the fluid closed over his ears, he could hear nothing, not even his own frightened breathing or his heart pounding. He tried to hum, make any sound, but whatever the liquid was completely shut down his eardrums. Now the fluid had covered him, filling the chamber completely. The warmth matched his body heat perfectly, and his skin didn't even register the small currents caused by his own movements. God, he would have to endure 15 minutes of this? He breathed deeply and tried to relax. It was peaceful, floating here, but with no stimulus at all, his brain began to race. Had it been 15 minutes yet? Certainly 5 had passed by now, 1/3 of the way there. What were they tracking? He had no idea. The electrodes were soft and barely noticeable on his skin, even the ones between his legs. He shifted in the water, trying to force a current. He tried to touch his face, clasp his hands, but although he could tell his hand met with an obstacle, his brain did not register that he had touched anything. Vertigo gripped him, and he flailed in panic, his limbs reaching out to touch the walls, but finding nothing. She'd said to press a red button, but when he could see and feel nothing, how was he supposed to find a red button? He tried to scream into the mask, but his ears couldn't catch the sound vibrations in his own head. Sensory deprivation, idiot, he thought. Calm down. Panting, he slowed his movements and concentrated on breathing deeply. He wasn't in pain. He could breathe. And he was fine. And this was for only 15 minutes. Right? And it wasn't total sensory deprivation either. He could smell something coming through the tubes, a distant smell of baking. It wasn't steady, it more had the sense of walking past a kitchen as someone pushed a door open, letting some of the aroma escape. What was it? Cookies? Marco's father used to bake cookies. It was their Thursday night ritual. Bake cookies, watch a movie or a football game, and he'd get to stay up a little later than usual. They'd started it soon after his mother had died, and it always brought the sense of safety, of love, of slightly bittersweet memory. After he had moved out, he continued baking on Thursdays, just for himself, and he'd send his dad email every Thursday night to talk about the latest movie or football game. When he finally got his dad set up with a vid phone, they'd had phone calls. He had tried to share his Thursday night ritual with only one other person. Penelope had had to work late that night. She had apologized, but she never really got how important Thursday nights were to Marco, and he didn't bake for her again. She was a pastry chef. She always did the baking anyway. His father had never worked late on a Thursday. As her memory surfaced, he felt the bitter disappointment he'd felt that night. The painful betrayal. A taste touched his tongue then, coming through the mask, cinnamon and sweet, turning hot after a moment, like the cinnamon candies. Those candies had been on a coffee table the night before his friend Reggie's 13th birthday party. He'd been 12, waiting with Joanne, a family friend, for Reggie's mother to stop futzing with his tie back in a bedroom. Marco had eaten a cinnamon candy and started in surprise when the heat had grown uncomfortable. "Damn, that's hot," he'd told Joanne. She had grinned at him. "Aw, want me to kiss it and make it better?" "Yeah," Marco replied, choking, and then her lips had been on his, touching slightly, clumsy, fleeting. Then Reggie had been ready and they'd been bustled to the party and Marco's head hadn't stopped reeling. Nothing more ever happened with Joanne, but Marco had always associated the fire of cinnamon with the breathless rush of that first kiss. His heartbeat quickened and his cheeks warmed with the memory. More memories came, the coarse feel of his first dog's fur, the thrill of exploring the woods with him, the cheap beer that had been on his tongue when he'd asked out the hottest woman in the bar, the accompanying shame when she had laughed. Grief as distant as an old toothache, triggered by the sounds of bug zappers, placed all over the mausoleum where his mother had been interred. As his senses were stimulated by different sounds, tastes, odours and feelings, memories surged, leaving him angry, thrilled, shamed and grief-stricken. Memories of Penelope kept surfacing, her perfume, the feel of her straight black hair, the sound she made when they made love, and the ratty Notre Dame sweatshirt she'd been wearing the day she'd received the letter of patronage and had dumped him after his envious, childish tantrum. Shame. Grief. It overwhelmed him. His chest tightened, his tears floated off into the viscous liquid. Please let me think about something else. Stop reminding me about Penelope, he thought. He'd burned dinner the night his letter rejecting patronage came through, drank beer instead. The taste of the hot, thick bile of the subsequent hangover flooded his mouth and the same impotent rage bloomed in his chest. They continued to come. At this point, Marco began to sob, overwhelmed. No matter whether the emotion the Legion triggered, he sobbed more, despair and confusion taking over. He felt wind on his face, reminding him of the roller coaster he'd been on as a child, but he sobbed still. "No more, please. 15 minutes has to have passed. It has to end soon," he thought, feeling the tingling rush of sexual excitement as he heard the deep thumping of the drum and bass music Penelope liked to make love to. Even after she left, the sound of that music never failed to stimulate him, and he hated it. And he hated the memory it brought with it. The shame of his arousal, of knowing they were watching, monitoring him, caused him to flail about again, screaming through his sobs into the mask, even as the sensations increased, causing him undeniable pleasure, despite his attempts to ignore it, despite his embarrassment, and he wept as he shuddered in release. The music pounding in his head, the scent of Penelope in his nostrils, and pure hatred for the bastards who did this to him. All sensation ceased. He panted, bit hard on the mask, tried to calm himself. He could suddenly feel his hair, wet and matted, cool in the air. He realized the fluid was draining, his skin finally able to feel again. Once the fluid went below his eyes, he blinked and could see through the glass at the impassive aliens watching him. 13 watched the computer bank connected to his tank. As the fluid drained, a speaker popped to life above him. "That was excellent, Marco. Thank you," said 13's voice. "We're going to recommend you go back to your quarters now. You likely will want a shower and rest." Significant tea. How's everybody doing?
I think that's even rougher than I remember.
That is nasty.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Shani Opal says it best. Fucking yikes. Let's carry on. Oh, before we do, I actually have a sensory deprivation tank story to tell you, which will amuse you tremendously in the exact way that didn't.
Which is nothing like this, correct?
Yes. The Mercury 13, who were the 13 female astronauts who private industry put through the same training exercises as the original 7 American astronauts. By the way, they aced it. They scored higher across the board, and of course weren't chosen. But one of them, and I forget the lady's name, was asked about her time in the sensory deprivation tank, and she said, "Yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great. Couldn't feel anything, couldn't see anything, couldn't hear anything. Sang every song I knew, recited bits of the Bible, a few limericks. And then after a while, his voice went, 'Hey, Mickey.' And I went, 'Yeah.' They went, 'Do you want to come out now?' And I said, 'I've been in here like 10 minutes. And they said, 'No, it's been 15 hours, Mickey. We're bringing you out.' I was like, 'Okay.' Never underestimate people like that. Very cool.
I think your question is about to be answered, Ash. Hang in there.
There was no timer on the shower this time, and Marco stayed in it for 20 minutes. Hot water turning his skin red, his head leaning against the frosted glass of the shower. The silk robe had been replaced by a soft, puffy cotton one, and he dried off and wrapped it around himself, recognizing the smell of cookies as he wrapped himself in the robe, resenting it, but still accepting the calm it gave him. His brain tried to register surprise that Heather sat in his room when he came out of the bathroom, but he was just too tired. "So doors don't lock around here, do they?" he asked. Her thin fingers wrapped around a steaming blue mug. She reached to the table and passed him an identical one. This one full of coffee. He accepted it. "Our patrons don't have anything to hide, and they don't think we should either. You can probably guess they don't have a lot of understanding of shame or nudity." He thought of the situation he'd just been through, and his stomach twisted. He sipped at the coffee to keep from shaking. "I don't have anything to hide. Not anymore." "It is rough," she agreed. "Did you go through that?" "Does everyone?" he asked, sitting on his bed and pulling the covers over his legs. His sheets had been changed to soft linen that brought to mind the scent of lavender, and he drank deeply of the strong coffee. She regarded him over her mug. "Of course they do. I told you, the Legion do not feel passion. This is how they merge sensory output, how they put taste in a locket or a song into a dress. So do they want me for my writing and illustration skills, or my memories and emotions?" Her brown eyes didn't waver. "I honestly don't know." He put down the empty mug, which had suddenly become too heavy. "Do I have to go through that again?" he asked in a very small voice. The red granny, whom he had recently witnessed kill 2 people in arena blood sports, rose from her chair and came over to him. She sat on the bed and wrapped her arms tight around him. "Oh no, dear, you won't have to go through that again. Not ever. They've got all your sensory emotional connections. They don't need more." He leaned into her, accepting the maternal care, and closed his eyes. The scent of cookies and lavender seeped away, and he smelled her warm baby powder and sweet coffee. He didn't have any tears left, so he just let her hold him. And through this comfort, a cold voice in the back of his mind reminded him that her words were less than comforting. He found it odd that everything that had happened to him that day had happened before 10 o'clock. After his phone chimed with a text saying his agent wanted to see him, Heather left his room and he dressed and went to meet Catherine for brunch. Despite the dark circles under his eyes, Marco felt calmer and grounded, ready to discuss with his agent the terms of his patronage. He was still unsure, but felt better after the shower and the quiet encouragement from Heather. "Hey, ma!" Catherine entered the restaurant like the force of nature she was. "Marco! There you are!" she called in her raspy voice, causing many patrons to stare first at her and then at him. He gave a little wave and fought the desire to hide. Catherine stood nearly 2 meters tall, with curly blonde hair down the middle of her back and a huge smile. Marco had thought she looked like a natural beauty that had been somehow enhanced using paint software, complete with missing pixels and distortions. She carried 2 large purses that Marco knew from experience were not her luggage, but simply what she needed for everyday work. She dropped her bags beside her chair and put her hands on her hips. "Well, aren't you glad to see me? Where's my hug?" Fighting the urge to remind her that she had dumped him 2 days prior, Marco stood up and embraced her gently, which didn't stop her from crushing him to her formidable chest. "I'm so glad to see you, Marco. This is going to be exciting. Let's order mimosas to celebrate, and we can go over the contract." She plopped down into her chair and picked up a menu. "They don't have mimosas at this restaurant, Catherine. The orange juice and coffee is quite excellent." "No mimosas? I'll have a Bloody Mary." Marco wondered if he should just let her be disappointed. A Legion waiter approached them wearing a sheath over his body that identified him as House Orange. "No, the Legion don't drink, and they don't like it when humans do. It's hard to get a drink up here." "Oh, that's harsh. I had no idea. I thought Mollywood was where the Alcoholics Guild was based," she asked. He shrugged. "You can get a drink, just not from a Legion establishment. They haven't outlawed it, they just don't serve it, and, well, they run most of the businesses up here." She slapped the menu shut. "All right then, we'll skip the celebratory drink and save it for later. Now, let's talk contract." Marco held up his hand. "Catherine, let me stop you. I'm not sure I'm taking the patronage." "What the bloody hell are you talking about?" she said, louder than Marco preferred. "Of course you're bloody taking it. No one ever turns down a patronage." Marco felt his calm slip. "That doesn't mean it won't happen. I don't fit in here. I don't like it. You've been here a day. What could have happened in a day?" Catherine waved her arms and nearly whacked the Legion waiter. "Good morning. What can I get for you?" he said smoothly, as if Catherine hadn't nearly punched him. "You can get me an explanation," Catherine said. "You can tell me why this boy won't accept Legion patronage after being in Mollywood only 1 day." "I'm sure I do not know," the alien said. "Would madam like a coffee? Decaf, perhaps?" Catherine waved her hand. "Sure, bring 2. The waiter glided away, and Marco wondered if he would ever be able to make a decision for himself again. "Have you heard the contract terms? Is that what you're mad about?" she asked. "No," Marco said. "What have you done since you've been here?" "Well, I met House Blue. I moved in. I went to the most dangerous game last night. Went out for drinks. Legion drinks," he added, seeing her raised eyebrow. "And then..." He couldn't bring himself to begin to explain what he had been through that morning. He'd never called something rape that didn't involve an actual sexual assault, but he felt shamed, exposed, bruised, completely unwilling to discuss his experience. Then, "I had a meeting with them this morning that showed me I didn't really want to get involved with them." He didn't meet her eyes. "Oh, is this the artist mapping?" He looked up. "What?" "The artist mapping. It's how they combine all the art concepts. They map the emotions of the artist and store them for later use." His cheeks flushed. "Is that what they call it?" "Yes, you're not technically supposed to do it until we sign the contract," she said, digging through her massive purse. She pulled out a tablet and punched some commands on the screen. "If they made you do it before signing, then we could likely leverage more money out of them, but don't worry about it. I hear it can be intense, but everyone goes through it. No biggie." Pardon me. Marco felt an irrational desire to strangle her. Or perhaps it was rational. He wasn't sure. He just wanted to make her understand that what he went through was not no biggie. She looked up from her tablet when he didn't say anything. "You all right?" Marco opened his mouth, and still found that the shame was powerful enough to keep him quiet. "Intense." "Yeah, it was." She waved her hand. "Still, it's over now. And yeah, that's the worst part about patronage. You know, you rake in the dough and create all day. Isn't that what you always wanted?" "I didn't know the price before," he thought. Out loud, he said, "Why didn't you tell me this was going to happen?" Well, if you'd studied patronage instead of pouted for the last 4 years, you would have known about it. There are books written on this shit, Marco. Besides, as I said, you weren't supposed to go through it until you signed the contract, which, she scooted her chair around the table, oblivious of getting in the way of the waitstaff, I have right here. She put the table in front of him. It was mostly a lot of legal text that made his eyes glaze over on the tablet screen, but she pointed to a number. There. Does that change your mind? It was impressive. Twice what he made on Earth. That's my yearly salary. Catherine grinned widely. No, Marco. That's your monthly salary. He felt the spit in his mouth dry up. Her long purple fingernail traced other clauses of the contract as she listed them. You get the money and become part of House Blue. That includes housing, meals, wardrobe, use of vehicles, and seating at all entertainment House Blue attends. She cocked an eyebrow at Marco. What you apparently got last night. Now, what you give them is exclusivity, of course. No working for another house. You will submit to artist mapping. You will deliver 1 graphic novel and 6 original pieces of art a year. They will take your work and enhance it with sensory art as they see fit and sell it for what price they want. Your salary is the same whether you are a bestseller or a flop. At the end of the year, you both have a chance to renegotiate. If you're a flop, they can dump you, or you can ask for more if you're a hit. She lit up a lumen. Look, Marco, the worst part is over. If you're upset about the early mapping, we can demand more. Is there something else you want? Anything else in the contract you want to change? Marco sat feeling like an empty husk. Tears pricked at his eyes. He brushed at them impatiently. I feel like I've been handed everything I ever wanted, and it's hollow. Catherine blew smoke out the side of her mouth and leaned forward, lumen smoke, making her voice even rougher than usual. If it was that bad, Marco, we can make them pay. And what did you have on Earth? Seriously. You're in a different place. This is your chance to turn everything around. You have money, new opportunities. Shit, take the patronage for a year, bank the money, move back to Earth and live on your riches. Like I said, you won't be mapped again. This is your dream, Marco. But it's not empty. I promise. The waiter brought their coffee. Suddenly hungry, Marco ordered a huge breakfast. They ate in near silence. When they were done, he wiped his mouth and sat up a little straighter. Well, this morning was the worst experience of my life, Catherine, so if they want to keep me, I want double. She choked on her coffee and started to stammer, but he kept his gaze steady. She guzzled her water to stop choking and then sat back, panting. Well, if that's what you want. Marco grinned slightly. Well, you are the best in the business, right? The whole way through that chapter, all I was thinking was this week on a very special episode of Ditch Diggers.
Oof.
Red Crystal, I'm really sorry. I hope you're alright.
What I take away from this is that Catherine knew of the existence of artist mapping, but probably has zero idea what it actually involves.
Yes.
And poor Marco certainly didn't.
Apparently I'm back to super deep voice.
Oh no. All right. How about this? Why don't we take a break for a minute or two? In fact, this might be a very good time to take a break just anyway. We've been going for a little bit over an hour. I will troubleshoot the mic again. Everybody stand up and take a stretch, and we'll come back in a few minutes. How's that sound?
Back in a few, folks. And we're back. Thank you so much for sticking with us, folks. And also, thank you for reassuring me, because I've been looking at the chat as I sat back down in the 56 seconds of countdown. And yeah, this is intense, but this is really, really good stuff. And also, Mer, your thing of how do I write like this again? You already have. You do all the time. Just do the thing. You got this. Jax, you could absolutely cosplay me. And that reality-breaking concept is what I'm going to leave sit in your brain for a while as we do the last little bit of tonight. You aren't... Jax, you're a small me. You're a small me.
So
2 weeks later, Marco was in his office in an artist colony. His prominence at House Blue had given him a top-floor office with a window looking out over the city with a specific angle on Platt Park. To the south of the park was Burns Studios, where House Verdant produced movies, and Pamela's Peak, a music studio built into a hill with natural moonrock walls providing perfect noise dampening. 20,000 words into his new graphic novel script. He was stuck. He ran his hand through his hair, noting the need for another haircut. Oh, fuck, I need a drink, he muttered. Heather had shown him the best Legion restaurants, and he'd discovered some new Earth cuisines he hadn't had a chance to try at home. But he actually hadn't had a drink at a bar, something so simple. Time spent with her, when she wasn't training, was odd. He found himself more agitated, but more grounded at the same time. He was both happier and more likely to question his patronage, even though he had experienced no problems at all since the initial mapping. Heather always made him tea and listened intently. He knew the Legion frowned on alcohol, but it wasn't completely forbidden. He was allowed to go anywhere and ride base. He was an adult, right? So he got up from his sparse desk, locked down his computer, and left his office. He'd become pretty familiar with the Legion section of the city, and had even gotten to know some of the other authors in his colony. He was surprised to see his office was beside one of his favourites, in fact, Kay Ing, and he was much too shy to talk to her for the first few weeks. But he finally introduced himself and found her friendly and welcoming, if distracted. None of the artists would talk about their mapping experiences. It still invaded his dreams sometimes. His memories, his senses overwhelming, drowning him, making him frightened and delighted and horny and angry all at once. He developed a bad habit of chewing on his lip, worrying the sore skin there whenever he remembered the experience. He went back to his room and changed from his House Blue outfit to his old clothes. He carried his satchel with his tablet with him, putting on the House Blue light jacket from his wardrobe. Seven saw him and he waved, saying he was going to a coffee house to write. He still hadn't warmed to the brusque alien, but he found if he did his work, Seven left him alone. He and Heather were still the only humans in House Blue. Marco made his way to the monorail, and when he got on the shuttle, he took off the jacket and stuffed it in the satchel. He sat down near a human family and watched the city flow by. He had learned depressingly little about the lunar colony since joining House Blue. 6 and 7 were always willing to take him out, but only to 2-2-2 or to watch the most dangerous game from their box. But the games weren't as exciting without the Red Granny to root for, and the blood sports disgusted him. He had visited some shops to modify his wardrobe, always with escort, but he had his own credit card, and it was never said that he wasn't permitted to go into the city. The train emerged from a tunnel into a market area that swarmed with people, with a daytime that lasted 15 Earth days, and people from all around the world residing in the colony. Many areas were open all the time. There wasn't much of a slow time on the moon. When the Americans were hitting the bars, the Filipinos were hitting the breakfast joints. So many people, Marco muttered. He'd known Mollywood had about 3 million residents, but he never really thought about how many that was when you didn't allow for suburbs. There would be no expanding, unless the Legion facilitated it, of course. No suburban sprawl to get away from the city. The high-rises and, he later found, the tunnel residences were all they had. Only needing two Earth hours to rest a day, the Legion kept to the GMT time zone, and most of their artists did too. So the people he encountered while out were either Western, European, or artists of all nationalities with alien patrons. Restaurants district, world cuisine, pubs, the robotic voice said over their heads in English, then Spanish, then Mandarin, then Cantonese, then Hindi, then in a couple of dialects Marco didn't recognize. He rose to his feet and exited the monorail. In the Li Jin section of the city, his clothes were immediately recognized as being of Li Jin quality, and he was assumed to be a very wealthy man with alien tastes, or an artist with patronage. In other parts of the moon, it was much easier to blend in. Here, the humans noticed Li Jin clothes only when the aliens themselves wore them, which was on rare or special occasions. The aliens also rarely went to the human areas, so spotting one, or indeed being spotted by one, was pretty unlikely. Marco considered a Chinese restaurant, then a Japanese, then Mexican, and nearly entered an Indian doorway when he noticed stairs down from the street with an old-fashioned shingle hanging from the doorway. Propulsion, it said, and underneath it was a wooden carving of an astronaut opening a beer in space and being blown back by the force of the carbonation. Gin. That's what he needed. He'd get food after. He went down the sticky steps and entered the bar. A strong, sickly odour of beer hit his nostrils and he winced. It had been a while since he'd had a drink, but he didn't expect it to be this overpowering. 3 people slumped at the bar, 2 women and a man, and the barkeep eyed him over a pint glass, his bushy eyebrows knitting together as if he pegged Marco as a stranger. A man slumped in the corner, overcoat pulled around him, and snored quietly. 2 men argued in a booth, trying to keep their slurred voices down, clearly failing. It sounded like a lover's quarrel. Marco approached the bar. "Can I get a gin and tonic?" he asked. The barkeep looked him up and down. "Aren't you a little far from home?" he asked, his British accent. Yes, thick.
You didn't notice that in advance, did you?
No.
I was just going to do a content warning. Accents.
Marco knew what he meant, but he said, "We all are. About 240,000 miles, right?" "You're a pet. You're a pet of those aliens. You sure you should be here?" Marco shrugged uncomfortably. "Are you saying you won't serve me? My money's as good elsewhere." The barkeeper's bushy brown eyebrows rose slightly. Marco wondered if he was supposed to be shamed or embarrassed for working with the Legion. The barkeep began pouring well gin into a glass. "Not saying that at all. Just figured you would know the aliens don't like drunks." "One drink does not a drunk make," Marco said, sitting down on a stool, passing his credit card to the bartender. "It's not where you start, mate. It's where you finish." The bartender put his drink down. "Call me when you need another one." Marco nodded and sipped at his drink, wincing at the cheap, flowery taste. This was not a night for fine cocktails. The bartender returned and slid something across the bar. Looked like a pack of gum. "There, on the ass. You'll need them for your return." "Look, they never said I couldn't drink," Marco argued, shoving the pack back. "What's the big deal?" One of the men slumped at the bar spoke up, looking at his empty pint glass. With another British accent, he said, "You want to find out the big deal, then you go back tonight with gin on your breath and a stagger in your step." Marco looked around, an uncomfortable heat rising to his face. He looked at the exposed neck of the bartender and the other British man. "He's actually American, I'm cheating." And the bartender had a 6 tattooed on the side of his neck. The other British man had a 9. The other people at the bar, whose necks he could see anyway, were adorned with a 1, a 9, a 2. Alcoholics Guild, he thought. Just my luck. Oddly, he knew more about the protocol of dealing with guild members than he knew about the Legion when he reached Mollywood, and when the bartender offered him another drink, he did not turn it down. Marco indicated the tattoo on the bartender's neck. "If the Legion don't like alcohol, then why don't they kick you guys out of the colony?" "You mean beside the fact that Earth won't have us?" Marco shrugged. "Yeah, I guess. Press love us. Poor drunken slobs who celebrate their sickness and can never go home so long as we got V's on our necks." Pointed to a 6. "If the Legion kicked us out, it would not be a quiet thing. And the press might ask why they don't want alcohol or bars anywhere. And the Legion don't want to answer that direct question, so they regulate it. Heavily. They try to keep their pets out of bars. So that's why we're trying to keep you safe, puppy. Marco swallowed his gin, deliberately not rising to the barb. He turned to the other British man to ask him a question, but the man had focused on the door to their right. Opposite the door to the street, it looked to be the door that opened to the tunnels. Everyone in the bar, including the man slumped on the floor, straightened a little when two people came through. One was a little man, no more than 5.5 feet, with black slick-back hair and a really nice suit. In one hand was a golden flask, and around his neck was a crucifix. Tattooed on his neck was a 12. The bar focused on the man, but it was the woman beside him whom Marco couldn't stop staring at. Her black hair was longer, but she no longer wore the turtleneck. Instead, she proudly displayed the black 11 on her neck as her bloodshot eyes focused on him. Penelope? And that's where we'll leave it for the week. Like Jack says, boom! Mic dropped.
Always gotta have a cliffhanger for the end of the story, right?
Absolutely.
Mur is very good at writing
Mur is very good at writing
cliffhangers.
cliffhangers.
Should we embarrass Mur by telling her how good she is at writing while she's in the screen?
If she is still here, I think we should tell her that
She is here, I can see her.
she's an extraordinarily talented writer whose instinctive grasp of the mystery genre in particular has brought together not one but two, and counting, just phenomenally good books, which I feel have continued to steer the genre in a fundamentally positive, inclusive, and deeply fun and entertaining way.
Is that any better, folks? People are saying that they're not able to hear my mic. Mic coming across?
Can folks hear Marguerite?
La la la, la la la. Ooh, it doesn't look like you can. Or maybe yes you can.
The mics just freaking hate us this week, dude. I'm telling you.
I think we're having all sorts of problems with the mics. That's okay.
You want to come over?
No, still can't hear me. Okay, everybody, thanks for letting me know. Hang on, let me play around with that. And in the meantime,
Shenanigans. La 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 shenanigans.
oh, Wendy.
So I'm doing this first one with the art, yeah?
Hang on just a second.
Test 1, 2. Test. Am I picking up now? No, I think it's still echo, isn't it? Maybe.
Oh, Wendy's got you.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we are. There we are.
There
Okay.
we go.
Fine. That sounds good. Let's see if I can do that. Can you see both of us now? Yay. All right.
I'm waving at me. Look. It's
Are
great.
you waving at me?
I'm
I'm
waving
waving
at
at you. What's hilarious about this is we're both looking into cameras and our backs are to each other. So I can't see him looking at me and he can't see me looking at him. Whew, got through that sentence. Okay. One of these days we're going to have like a proper space with like back-to-back desks or something like that. And, you know.
TikTok Nook.
What?
The TikTok Nook.
The clock app Nook, yes. But that'll involve a green screen, and I
Focus.
can't wait to see what y'all do when we get a green screen up and in place. It's just going to be... I was going to say high crimes and misdemeanors, but that's a little topical. So, shall we talk...
Ooh.
Thank you. Should we talk about shenanigans? Let's
Yes.
put the shenanigans in the chat. Here we go, folks.
The student becomes the master by Anne Regan.
It's a tweet.
Oh. And this-
You're welcome. You're welcome for this, chat.
Oh, you got us a dad joke.
I got you a dad joke tweet. Yes, I did.
And some really very lovely art under it from related accounts.
Oh, okay. Cool.
People keep calling Magnus Pod's Jonah Magnus an avatar of the eye, or the Beholding's acolyte, but really he is its student. One might even call him its pupil. Ah,
He loves it when you give him dad jokes, folks.
waka waka.
He absolutely loves Waka Waka dad jokes. Oh, yes.
I love stuff like that because, like, as so many of you are saying, like 3 words in, you're like, no,
No.
no,
Just no.
ah.
And you can't get away from it. I know. Just a reminder, spoiler free for most recent episode of Magnus, folks, okay? Because I know some of you have access to it, and some of us have finished 192 and are waiting for their partner to catch up so that they can listen to 193 together.
I'm on 189. I'll get that tomorrow.
Wow.
So it's all right.
You've had a lot more time than I have.
Hey
Now. Hey now. All right, so we've got one more shenanigan, and you're not going to want to watch me for this. You're going to want to watch him.
This is Washed Up, credited to Elias Bouchard, BOO. Elias never stole Peter's skin. That was such a staple of the legends he found, betrayal and theft and lies. He wouldn't have been willing to, he would have been willing to, of course, but, I mean, the need never presented itself. As Elias found himself walking back down the boardwalk towards the ocean, he thought back to when he'd first found Peter, so long ago now. Come to think of it, it had been this very same beach. How poetic. His back straightened a little as he walked, holding himself up a little higher. This was not a walk of defeat. He was determined. The first time Elias came to find himself in possession of the Selkie's skin, he was walking on the beach and found a man he assumed to be a sailor, barely breathing on the sand, half covered by this huge sealskin. He couldn't help his curiosity and approached, pulling the sealskin away and examining it as Peter lay there, recovering from what he assumed had been at least fairly serious shipwreck. Elias helped Peter to his feet, ignoring his quiet protests and requests to leave him alone, and walked him back to his house. After he helped Peter over to the couch to sleep, Elias brought his skin into his study, hanging it up to dry, and setting up a research station of sorts around it. He kept the skin for 6 whole weeks that first time, keeping it in his study and examining every inch. Peter didn't take it back, though he seemed to know where it was. The more that Elias looked into Selkie myths, the less and less Peter's actions made sense. Why would he just allow Elias to keep his skin? He hadn't hidden it, and he wasn't forcing the man to marry him like so many of the tales seem to include, but the pale, quiet man stayed, and Elias studied more. He took advantage of the opportunity to examine the regenerative cells of the skin and the way it seemed to keep itself hydrated without actually being attached to anything. Elias was curious about more than just his transformative abilities, of course, and Peter, in turn, seemed curious about Elias's studies, particularly his nautical books and diagrams. They spent a lot of time being alone together in silence over those 6 weeks, comfortable and quiet. Often Elias would spend days without seeing Peter, until he popped his head into the room he was in, asking about some book or the other. It was a nice sort of harmony until Peter finally approached Elias on the 6th Saturday, nodding towards the skin he was studying. I need to take that back now. My family will be wondering where I am, Peter explained, giving an apologetic smile. I thought you said they valued being alone, Elias asked, a touch annoyed. They do, and they're going to be wondering why I'm spending so much time with a human, Peter pointed out. You'll see me again, will I? All the tales I've found in my research say once a Selkie gets their skin back, they disappear into the ocean forever. Elias pointed out, brow furrowing in frustration. Yeah, I bet they also say you can throw 7 tears into the ocean to call me to you, Peter laughed, taking the skin back. Try that, if you miss me so badly. The second time, Peter gave it to him. Elias was used to Peter showing up once a month or so at that point, so it wasn't the fact he'd shown up in his office, dripping seawater, again. He'd gotten himself a ship, and more often than not was travelling above the water rather than below it. It was safer to keep the skin on land with Elias than to try and ferry it around and risk it being stolen from him. It was the look on Peter's face, the most determined he'd ever seen the man, that really got him to take things seriously. Elias had been surprised as Peter thrust the skin into his arms and listened patiently as Peter told him to safeguard it with his life, and, barring that, measures that would protect it in the event of Elias's death. Excuse me? I haven't seen you in over a month, and suddenly you're at my doorstep, making demands, dripping salt water on my carpet. You know salt water stains, Elias began, a low growl to his tone. Please, Elias, you're the only one I trust. Peter had insisted, pressing his hand on top of Elias's, where it held the skin, looking at him seriously. Do this for me. Fine. But you better have one hell of a good reason, Elias began, but was cut off by Peter pressing his lips against his. He tasted salt and warmth as Peter dipped him, stumbling a little as the captain pulled away and backed out the front door, giving Elias a little wave. Wait, did you just kiss me to shut me up? Elias asked, staring after the back of Peter's head as he turned and walked away. Peter, that doesn't work outside of movies. Peter, who raised you? Usually, he didn't get too worried. Peter was gone for months at a time, sure, but he always answered his calls, even if it took time. A text message at the very least. He was gone too long, though, and Elias started to feel a sick, twisting worry in his stomach. It was frustrating not knowing where the sailor was, not knowing if he was safely isolated, if his family had found out he'd given away his skin intentionally. He didn't want to think of the other option, but with what Elias had learned about Selkies, it didn't bode well for the captain. He didn't want to dwell on the reason why he didn't want to consider that either. So he took matters into his own hands. Elias gathered what he needed, and with some help from Martin, waded out into the ocean, a glass vial clutched in his hand as he stood there, watching the waves. He popped the vial open, dropping the salty water into the ocean and counting the drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nothing. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Elias groaned, pinching the ridge of his nose. They've got to be my tears. Is that it? He asked, tone dry and annoyed. Fine. Crying on demand isn't that hard. You think I've never employed crocodile tears before, big man? He laughed, then let out a frustrated huff of air, shaking his head. Damn it. Elias stood there in the water, feeling the wind whip against his face, and the tears starting to fall. They hit the water one by one, and he counted as they went and waited. This isn't funny, Peter, he muttered after a few moments of quiet, pulling the skin tighter around his shoulders and feeling the cold wind whip against the now damp skin around his eyes. Where? Oh! He spotted a seal bobbing through the waves towards him and stayed still, waiting and watching as it came closer. Peter, how are you? Are you all right? He asked, putting his hand on the seal's head and petting its soft fur as it nuzzled into his palm and swam around him. You're safe. Don't do that to me again. You scared me, Peter. You can change back now. I have the skin, Peter asked from behind Elias, standing on the shore and watching him with an amused smile, laughing at the way he jumped at the sound of his voice, nearly falling over into the waves. I got your call, he nodded, gesturing to the water. I see you made a friend. Oh, shut up, Elias grumbled, his tone shifting into deep annoyance, pushing the seal away and stomping back out of the water, throwing the skin at Peter as he passed him and ignoring his uproarious laughter as he walked away. What? I don't get any head pats? Elias, come back! Peter laughed as he followed after him, wrapping the cloak around his shoulders again. Elias. Notes. Seal facts. A mother leaves its pup after the first month to finish growing and fend for itself. Mothers do not teach pups to hunt. They learn on their own. Seems pretty lonely. Seals dive for 3 minutes at a time, typically, but they can stay underwater as long as 30 minutes and dive as deep as 600 feet. Unlike humans, harbour seals breathe out before diving. They use oxygen already in their blood and muscles while underwater, and their heartbeat slows from about 100 beats per minute to 10.
And now is the part where you tell the chat about when you got to see a seal.
Oh, I've actually had 2 close encounters with seals. The first was when I lived in York, and I was walking into work one morning, and I heard a splash next to me in the river. I looked across, and I thought, that's a very large fish. That is not a fish. And there was a full-size seal on its back. The best way I can describe this is munching on the lower half of a trout the way you would on a cake pop.
In York?
In York. Just looking at the people walking along the path next to it. And it was just like, sup? Morning? Want some fish? No? Cool.
He wanted chips, let's be honest.
Clearly, obviously, in York. But several years after that, we were in Santa Cruz, and we went out boogie boarding. And this particular time, there was a guy there who was trying bodyboarding as well, which is great, where you just run really fast at the ocean and it punches you.
Basically, you throw yourself at the waves and don't miss.
And sometimes you skid on your nipples.
There's a lot of sand in uncomfortable places.
Oh,
involved.
boy. Oh, boy. But we were out reasonably far, weren't we? It wasn't the riptide time, it was the time after that.
No, it was the time before that. We were just in the water. We were just surfing.
And we're just hanging out, chatting. And I mean, this is the limit of my clear vision. Stuff is blurry from about here on out. And I'm just sitting there with my hands on my board like this, and literally like a foot and a half away, this colossal head pops up. Looks at me.
Hello, land dog. I am sea dog.
Yeah, does the hello, land dog, I am sea dog. And I think
No. More importantly, does the hello.
Actually does the full-on dog head tilt. And then disappears again. And I have never been supra by another species before or since, but it was really cool. Sea wolf, indeed.
They are sea dogs. Seals are sea dogs. Very, very much so. Yeah, exactly. Whoa.
Dude. So yeah, that's pretty much our show for you for the week. We will now tell you where you can find me across the next few days. Oh,
Which is a lot of places.
I'm in a lot of places. On Friday at, I believe, 8 o'clock.
That is correct. Friday at 8 at Rusty Quill.
We will be doing the Dianea House, which is arguably the best creepypasta ever written. I am hyping this up deliberately because it is great.
And it is gonna scare the pants off y'all.
And there's actually more of it than I thought there was. There's actually a bit I've not read before, which we've found, which has made me very, very happy. So we're doing that, and then on Sunday we will be continuing our investigations into mail fraud and other occult daring do.
Exactly.
In the council, where Marguerite will be taking the lead. I believe. Don't you get to chat to Napoleon next?
I'm trying to push all the buttons. Yeah, I think we were supposed to go down to supper, or dinner, lunch, and we had that encounter on the stairs ahead of time. I think we're gonna have intrigue and conversation is the next segment, and that'll be on Sunday morning.
Big Boy Zeus hours.
Oh, dang it, you made me on. Stop it.
Sorry.
Oh.
And then next Wednesday, our guest delayed from this week, the magnificent Mr. Matt Wallace, will be here to discuss his middle grade debut, which is a superb book about found family and professional wrestling called Bump.
Chungus's wardrobe has already arrived for
Chungus's
next week.
wardrobe. We have been gifted with the next 3 Chungus costumes, and Wendy has excelled herself. Just, I don't have the words.
It's going to be really fun. Matt has written so much good stuff. There's you can't see it, chat, but there's a giant pile. We've pulled all the physical copies of his stuff. We have so many of his books to talk about. We'll talk primarily about Bump and Savage Legion, but some others as well.
And, be prepared to enter the presence of the most laconic human being either of us have ever met.
Okay, you guys think Alistair chatting with friends is good? Oh, these two are thick as thieves. Y'all are really gonna enjoy Matt. Matt is good people.
It was a straight up coin toss. I'm absolutely convinced that the year that he and Mo won the Hugo for Ditch Diggers, his acceptance speech wasn't just him picking the thing up, going right on and leaving.
I bet he had it planned. I bet that's what his plan had been.
I thought I'd just fair.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, much with the streaming
Yep, there's lots and lots of stuff heading your way, folks.
over the next couple of days. So, parting shots. Do you want to remind people about what we're asking for suggestions on?
Yes, we're asking for suggestions for one-act, two-person plays, monologues, essays, or the like for myself and the lovely Mr. Mikey LeBeau
Or
to do.
games?
And also
Are there
games are acceptable
kayaking
too.
games? Are there two-player kayaking games?
If-
We can
if-
make them sing the song. I would rather have a kayak than a wife. Yeah, that would be hilarious. I'm surprised you guys didn't tack that on Tuesday. I really am.
I sung the Secret Tunnel song.
I know. I heard that through the wall. I think you sang something else as well.
Oh yeah.
This is going to be fantastic. I'm sorry, chat. I've just made you all yawn. You're welcome. It's going to be fantastic when it comes out.
Dab it. Yesterday, Mikey and I spent 2.5 hours recording all the requested audio from RQGG this year. And yeah. It was
Silver is also correct. Alistair has a Kofi,
I
which he
have a
doesn't
Kofi,
mention
which
once.
Thank you for Secret Tunnel, Silver. That was a blast.
There is something else that Alistair needs to remember to mention right now. Let's see if he remembers.
Eligibility season for every award in my industry is now open, and I can't walk you through the complex ways that you will be eligible to nominate me. So many of you already are. But my
I bet Salia could, though, if you had questions.
My eligibility post is now done, and it includes the frankly ridiculous amount of work I did last year, which makes me eligible potentially to be a finalist in no less than 4 Hugo categories. Seriously, we've run the numbers.
There's been a lot going on. In fact, let me get you, chat. His eligibility post is now up and running, which will have all the details, which we will put in the stream notes, and which I will pop in the chat real quick.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like, well, I'm eligible for Best Fan Writer, which I've been a finalist for the last 2 years. The Full Lid is eligible for Best Fanzine. Con Zealand and the Doctor Who book are eligible for Best Related Work.
And Rec Runner, and your co-writer is in the chat.
And Rec Runner is also eligible for Best Related Work, and my co-writer is in the chat.
Keep talking, I'm getting a link.
No worries. So yeah, there's lots of stuff on, and I mean, even if you're not eligible to nominate anything, it's actually a really good primer for all the places I was in 2020.
All.
Thank you, Pezzy. That's really kind of you to say. And this year is shaping up to be loosely similar.
It's off to a real good start. I think lots of people spent January recovering from the holidays where they were recovering from 2020, and now February has come out swinging, and we've already got, like I said, we've already got stream guests lined up for the first half of the year. We've had a couple more people that we've approached or who are starting to approach us. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm going to make you all yawn. Himself is back on novel writing and has a bunch of articles still and is still being approached for books and being approached for other projects, some of which may show up in a newsletter next week, just saying. You know, there's a lot coming this year already, and it's only February limit.
Yeah. And so far this week's Full Lid is a single essay which incorporates how you can and should bring the Punisher into land with the new version of The Equalizer starring Queen Latifah with the evolution of artistic truth.
So, you know, light reading.
Yeah, just fluffy. It's fluffy this week. It's
It's fluffy. Very. Everybody needs more Pop-Tarts. Strawberry Pop-Tarts. Strawberry. Exactly. And with that,
that's our show.
I think we'll leave you, everybody.
Thank you so much, folks. This has been a pleasure. Massive thanks to our mods, to the amazing Marguerite for everything ever, to Ryan for the incredible music, and to all our contributors this week, and Mer for the raid, and for the amazing story. Thank you all so much, and we will see you on Friday.
Bye. We'll see you
not here.
In the not here. In a place remarkably similar to here, but not here.
It will look a lot like this.
We'll see you next week, everybody.